In this video, we will be focusing on Article 247, death or physical injuries under exceptional circumstances. Take note that this article does not define a felony. Rather, this serves as a defense for a person charged with parricide, homicide, or serious physical injuries. And if all the requisites have been met, the accused will be sentenced to destierro, which actually serves as a protection for the offender. So what are the elements in order a person can invoke this privilege? 1. That a legally married person or parent or parents surprises his or her spouse or daughter who is under 18 years of age and living with her parents in the act of committing sexual intercourse with another person. 2. That he or she kills any or both of them or inflicts upon any or both of them any serious physical injury in the act or immediately thereafter. 3. That he or she has not promoted or facilitated the prostitution of his wife or daughter, or that he or she has not consented to the infidelity of the other spouse. Let's try to break down the first element. For the first element, let's try to identify who are the offenders and the victims in this scenario. So under paragraph 1 of Article 247, one of the offenders described is a legally married person. And the victim here is the spouse of the legally married person and another person. Let's call them offender A, victim A, and victim C. Under paragraph 3, the offender described is the parent or parents of a daughter, and the victim is the daughter and or another person. Let's call them offender B, victim B, and victim C. So victim C, this is the person whom the spouse or daughter is having sexual intercourse with. So for the first element, let's remember that this pertains to the offenders and the victims. Let's try to supply the missing parts of this element. That A, who is offender A and offender B, that a legally married spouse or parent surprises his or her, who is victim A and victim B. Victim A is the spouse and victim B is the daughter. Now, we should take note that the age of the daughter must be under 18 years and her living condition should be that she is still living with her parents. In this case, it is assumed that the daughter is still single, that the daughter is not married. Continuing the first element, in the act of committing sexual intercourse with, who is victim C, another person. The first element, that a legally married spouse or parent or parents surprises his or her spouse or daughter who is under 18 years of age and living with her parents in the act of committing sexual intercourse with another person. So take note that the act of committing sexual intercourse, it must be actual. And in People versus Gonzalez, actual sexual intercourse means there is a vaginal penetration by the penis, and this does not include merely sleeping on the same bed. I hope that is clear for everyone. Let's proceed to the second element, that he or she kills any or both of them or inflicts upon any or both of them any serious physical injury in the act or immediately thereafter. In the second element, let's highlight the reaction of the offended spouse or parent. So what was the reaction of the offended spouse and or of the parent? He or she kills or inflicts upon any or both of them any serious physical injury. So remember, under this title, death or physical injuries, take note that this only pertains to a serious physical injury. Because if the injury inflicted was less serious or slight, there will be no criminal liability. I'd like also to emphasize that the victim, as we talked about earlier, can either be the spouse and or another person, or the daughter and or another person. The second element also points out that the reaction of the offended spouse or of the parent must be in the act or immediately thereafter. What does immediately thereafter mean? There is no set time, as our jurisprudence has held 1 hour or even 4 hours as immediately thereafter. Again, there is no set time for immediately thereafter. However, the act done must be a direct result of the outrage of the cuckolded spouse and a continuous act from the moment of the surprising. This guidance is based on the case of U.S. versus Vargas. I hope this provided you with a clearer understanding of what immediately thereafter means. And for the last element, that he or she has not promoted or facilitated the prostitution of his wife or daughter, or that he or she has not consented to the infidelity of the other spouse. This element provides for a limitation in invoking the privilege under Article 247. So the accused spouse or parent must not have promoted or facilitated the prostitution of his wife or daughter, or that he or she has not consented to the infidelity of the other spouse. For a recap, I'd like you to recall that the first element pertains to the act performed by the victims. So it's important for us to indicate in this element that the victim or victims are in the act of committing sexual intercourse. And on the second element, what was the reaction of the offended spouse or of the parent? He or she killed or inflicted upon them serious physical injury. So the first element is the act performed by the victims. And the second element, what was the reaction of the offender? And for the third element, this provides for the limitation in invoking this defense. If the offended spouse or parent promoted or facilitated the prostitution of his wife or daughter, or he or she consented to the infidelity of the other spouse, the offender cannot invoke this defense. Element 1, act performed by the victims. And in element 2, what was the reaction of the offender? And in number 3, the limitation in invoking this defense. For easy recall, remember element 1 pertains to the act performed by the victims. 2, the reaction of the offender. And the 3, the limitation in invoking the defense. A, R, L. I hope this video was able to help you remember and memorize the requisites in order that the offended spouse or parent can invoke the privilege under Article 247, death or physical injuries under exceptional circumstances. Thank you for watching this video.